let's talk about race real quick. Race at Bethel is funny to me. It's pretty comical. It's not necessarily that like the term racism to me doesn't mean the same to me as it does to everyone else. As long as you're not hanging anybody, I can deal with whatever you feel about stereotypes and whatever and that kind of stuff. Um, just so long as you're not discriminating and putting people down, I don't care. Everyone has some form of racism in them. Not an excuse to be that way. It's just reality. So it does happen even at Bethel. From an administrative level, um, top down Bethel is they are like stereotypical. They will place certain cultures in certain departments because they know certain cultures are better at certain things, allegedly, stereotypically better at certain things than others. So that's why you only see white members of the governing body. You've never seen any other race besides white, minus Sam Hurd, on the governing body ever. There has never been another race on the governing body. And there are plenty of other races who are in special full-time service who they can pick from to be on the governing body. That's deliberate. And down the line, when it came to work at Bethel, who you think were in the fields? Right now, today, picking at Wallkill and Patterson. The Mexicans. The Mexicans are there. They bring in all the Mexicans to pick all their fruit. Who do you think is mainly in the kitchen? Black Americans. Mainly in the kitchen. Who do you think are the majority of the home overseers? White men. The cleaners. Latinos. So when it comes to race at Bethel, that's how it goes. Now, most Bethelites were international, interracial relations were great. That's the one thing I can say that I miss about the organization was that we put race at the bottom of the list of things that we had a problem with. I sincerely believe that. And that is something I took with me. I don't care about race too much. I don't tolerate discrimination, but I don't make race my whole MO. Most groups at Bethel were fine with each other. But if you know anything about Bethel, you know that there's at least one group that was a little bit of a problem. And that was the Koreans. Those Koreans, they were so stuck up. They were so materialistic. They looked down on everybody because they had been through true persecution, the most modern form of it at that time. And they had been through a lot, I guess. They stuck together. They spoke their own language. They sat together. They only hung out with each other. They didn't really hang out with anybody else. And they didn't like to hang out with anybody else. And we all know, especially if you've ever been to Bethel, even visiting, that if Bethel was having Korean barbecue for lunch that day, I know it sounds bad, but it's true. If we were having Korean barbecue at Bethel for lunch that day, you don't sit at the Korean table. If there's one seat left at the Korean table, they might invite you to sit there, but you must be invited. You do not sit at the Korean table. A couple other things that were funny about race at Bethel. We all know Sam Hurd is the only black member of the governing body and only member of color on the governing body ever. So people who were trying to be somebody who were Black Americans, they would try to get close to him and his family and his friends. There were in Brooklyn, there were two tables that were kind of known for being tables of only Black Americans. And I mean tables meaning morning worship tables. Now, during the summertime, there are no assigned seats for morning worship because everybody has so many days off for conventions and vacations and assignments. So they didn't assign seats for morning worship. So during that time period was a time where you could sit wherever you wanted. There were two black tables at Bethel. One in one dining room where a certain heavy member was the table head, and you had to be invited to sit there. And that table was the Black American elite group of Bethelites that you were able to sit with. Again, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to name names. I can't name names when I'm talking about these stories, but you know, if you know. That was in one dining room. The other dining room was Sam Hur's table, and that was usually in the afternoon for lunch. Now, for lunch, we didn't have assigned seats, so every day, almost, the Hurd table was the Black American table, the Black American elite table. And if you were trying to climb up the Bethel ladder, or you wanted to put a little note in his ear or something like that, you sat at that table, spent some time with them before and after lunch, and you made it a regular thing. Again, not a lot of space at that table. There were 10 seats to a table. If there was one open, you could sit there. And you knew you kind of made it if you were invited to sit at that table. When it comes to race, any other types of races at Bethel, it really just kind of went by language, what language you spoke. I think it was some statistic that 80% of the United States Bethel family spoke a second or third language. So us being international people anyway, we naturally gravitated towards whatever language we were at. So if there were any like cliques or something like that based on race, it was because of language. And that's just kind of how you got grouped together socially. And as far as any other cliques for that matter, you typically only were clicking with people that you worked with. We considered laundry, building services, and food service fraternities, separate fraternities, and you stayed loyal to them the entire time that you were there and after you left. And you were always known as that. Even if you switched departments, if you were in food service, you were always considered one of the waiters, one of the kitchen crew. It was tighter in our department than it was in laundry or building services. And then in other departments, they didn't, outside of that, because everyone kind of just gets siphoned through Bethel through those three departments. After you branch out from there, you're considered that. So when it came to other departments, like you wouldn't necessarily have that type of fraternity. But that was the closest thing that you were going to get from that, the closest thing you're going to get to a fraternity. And then you kept that for the rest of your life, whether you liked it or not. So yeah, there's just too many things. I can spend millions of hours talking about the different little things that people did and all the things that I encountered with the people at Bethel. But that is the main things. Those are the main things that I could relay. So the next segment, I'm going to talk about the rules, what they were, why they were, and how to break them and get away with breaking them.